Again, thank you very much. I just want to introduce this next panel. It's to how veteran service organizations can help improve veteran recruiting, support, and outreach. I did look at my notes because I wanted to make sure it was a mouthful that I said it correctly. And this particular panel is being sponsored by Spectrum. And it's my great pleasure to bring to the podium who is Tim Cochran. He's with Tenova. He's the Vice President of Growth with the organization. He'll be coming up, moderating the next panel, and he will be introducing everybody from there. So thank you very much.
All right. Now, I know it's a tough act to follow, the painter. And not to mention everybody just coming back from lunch. But listen, I'm a Marine from Brooklyn.
Hurrah.
This is my town. And I got into the veteran services space about 5 years ago. As Carl said, my name is Tim Cochran. I am the Vice President of Growth for Tenova Higher Military. Prior to that, I spent the last 5 years building out ACP, American Corporate Partners. Before that, over 30 years at the New York Stock Exchange. And right before that, the United States Marine Corps. So I've been blessed to have a few transitions, to work with some of the biggest companies in the world. And one of the things that I found out really quickly was when I joined this space that there was a lot of different veteran service organizations. Now, if you look at some of the stats, they'd say there's over 40,000. And one thing that I've seen is that a lot of them have a rough time defining exactly what they do. And a lot of that goes into raising money, right? And so you're constantly trying to keep the lights on and raise money. And so you feel like you have to adapt. And I certainly understand the business aspect of that. But the one person that should be supporting those VSOs are corporate America, right? And it should be, they have the budgets and they should be able to reach down inside and support the ones that can make their companies better. And how they're going to make it better is by hiring more veterans. So first of all, I'd like to thank Carl Snyder, Nick Antaki, and George Altman, and the whole Vets Index group for having us and putting this very important event together. We have a great panel. And I have Patrick Sentz. Patrick is the military program manager from General Dynamics Bath Iron Works, which is a full-service shipyard specializing in design, construction, and support of our U.S. Navy ships and others. Blake Hogan, CEO Bunker Labs, right? Provides community programs and courses to help military veterans and military spouses, the most underserved of our U.S. military, start and grow successful businesses and startups. Thor O'Connell is representing the American Legion, which, as you know, is the nation's largest wartime veteran service organization. And then to top it all off, we have Omari Faulkner, who is the Veterans and Military Ambassador for Mantech International Corp., one of the United States' largest government contractors. Let's say a big hand for those gentlemen. I'm going to start it out with Patrick Sentz. He's going to tell us a little bit about what he does and how he got here today. Thanks, Pat.
Thank you. So good afternoon. Like he said, my name is Patrick Sentz. I am from Maine, so if we're looking at the country, there we do the Michigan thing. This is Maine. But I come from a recruiting background in the United States Army. I did just under 15 years. I apologize for not wearing a suit today because I don't fit in them anymore. I lost 60 pounds when I gave up my diamond. Nice. It's a good thing. For those of you that have been in First Sergeant, you know what I'm talking about. But I am the military program manager for Bath Iron Works in Maine. We do build the Arleigh Burke destroyer for the Navy. It's our one and only customer. But other than that, I am a dual military family. My wife is a first lieutenant now in the Army Reserves. Prior to that, she was a explosive ordnance disposal technician. So she can do things with diesel and an egg timer that will change your life, literally. But anyway, yeah, SkillBridge is my baby. For those of you that don't know about it, if you have questions, find me later. But yeah.
And hello, everyone. My name is Omari Faulkner, and I'm the Veterans and Military Ambassador for Mantech International. If anyone doesn't know about Mantech, we do basically everything from enterprise IT, cybersecurity. We like to say we help the federal government on some of its most mission-critical programs. We're about 10,000 employees. I've been at Mantech now for about 13 years, and one of the things I could say about Mantech is 47% of our employees are veterans, so that culture just, it just lights the room up. When you can walk in a room, you see two people, one of them is a veteran, so much so that when I joined Mantech 13 years ago, I had never served. When I graduated from college, I didn't think that I would, ever serve, but, being with so many different veterans, I was attending a basketball game on a U.S. carrier and during a Navy week and ran into some sailors, and I said if Uncle Sam would have me, I would serve. So I've been a public affairs officer now for about 8 years. And that's really has driven my passion for helping, veterans find, jobs where they're gainfully qualified, helping military families. And one other point I'd like to make too, to the last panel, is thank you for that voice. As a father to 4 daughters, everything that you said and everything you mentioned, it makes me proud and happy. And there are 4 little blessings that are walking through the house every day. And I think it's because women like you have paved the way for them in the future. So continue the great work that you guys are doing. I appreciate it.
All right. My name is Blake Hogan. I used to be the CEO of Bunker Labs. I'm now going to intern for you as a painter. Yeah, if I could bottle that energy, man, I think we'd be crushing it. Look, Bunker Labs has one mission. It is to rally America's business and civic leaders in order to empower the next greatest generation of entrepreneurs. We have a lot of challenges that we face in this world right now. I believe there's 2 ways to uplift our society. One is education, and the other is entrepreneurship. And even a Marine can figure this out, that if you help somebody go start a business, they're going to take care of their community, they're going to take care of their family. And then you do that, you have stronger communities, you have a stronger country, and you have a stronger world. So we can break this down. I think I love that you asked for business, because that is why we're here. There's a reason the bar opened early. 1, it was this panel would be better. And 2, that you all could get a chance to actually ask for the things that you need to find the right employees and find the right people that help you. The way we do that at Bunker is simple. We have 3 programs. So right now in 23 cities across the country, 235 entrepreneurs gather every day in WeWorks across the country to launch and grow their businesses. So those are early stage entrepreneurs. They're geographically based and they're industry agnostic. So if you've got a goal and you're trying to do that, we want to help you do that. We have something called our CEO Circle, which is put on by JP Morgan Chase. So these are companies that are 5 million in revenue or more. They're tech or government contracting. And it is a closed forum for CEOs to get the things that they need to get in front of the right people. And then we have our ambassador program. It's a 12-month fellowship where we get servant leaders to serve as ecosystem builders. Right now it's 80 leaders in 40 cities. Their job is to be connectors, to be facilitators, and to grow their own careers and companies. So we have a Peace Corps in this country. My vision is that becomes America's Entrepreneur Corps. And it can't happen without people like you. So thank you.
Thanks, Blake.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tor O'Connell. As said, I'm representing the American Legion. The New York Athletic Club has an American Legion post. It's upstairs on the 12th floor. I'm a past commander of that post, and we've done a number of things. But one of the things I wanted to highlight is the one thing that this post is focused on in the 10 years that I've been involved in it is really helping veterans transition, taking that rough diamond, polishing them up a little bit so you can get through the interviews and get hired. And that's really been one of our key focuses. I currently work in the finance industry. I currently work at SMBC, but prior to that, I was at Bank of America for 13 years. I helped start their veteran associate program here in New York, which hires people in front office roles in banking, trading, all those kinds of roles you imagine a bank has. And then also I led the New York City Veteran Employee Resource Group for B of A here. And so I'm going to, between those two experiences, I might jump a little bit between those two because they're really, in my view, those two are, there's a lot of synergy between them. So you can have outsized organizations that kind of feed you or funnel people that are looking for your kind of work, to you. And then that internal employee resource group is an incredible way to screen, mentor, and help them. Because a lot of times, especially, in the finance world, people walk up to me and say, "Hey, I want to work in, I'm coming out of the Marine Corps after deployment, and I want to be an investment banker." And it's like, okay, or I want to work in finance. And it's like, all right, like, how do we help them kind of neck down that black box and figure out where the best place for them to plug into the organization is? And so those kinds of things helping shape that employment landscape and actually trying to get those good outcomes and help people understand kind of what that opportunity set is. Because I always tell people, I go, hey, if you don't hire someone, that's not a bad outcome. If you do hire someone and they perform, that's obviously, not a bad outcome. The worst thing would be is if you hire someone and they hate it and you hate it, and now everybody's miserable together. That's the worst outcome. So you need to figure out how to screen, how to filter, and how to build that. And that's one of the things I've helped do in both the veteran service organization space and the ERG space.
Thanks, Thor. So along those lines, those of you who know me know that in the Marine Corps, I was a mine detector repairman, right? First of all, nobody signs up to be the mine detector repairman. Number two, when I got out of the Marine Corps, nobody was looking for a mine detector repairman in Lower Manhattan. And I probably wound up on 20 jobs, interviews I had no business being on, right? It was bad enough I showed up with this horrible Brooklyn accent, but I was still talking Marine Corps-ese, right? And so communication is so important, right? Translating skills coming out of the military, and at the same time, how do we get that across to somebody who's never served? And so Omari and I, we touched base on communication, so I'm going to throw the first question to him on what he sees as a best way for VSOs who are out there servicing and having this big pool of veterans that they're servicing. How do they get them into Mantech?
Yeah, and first of all, too, if anyone here, works for a VSO or has served for a VSO, thank you for your service. The tremendous work, as you pointed out, maybe 40,000 across the country. It's men and women who go to work every single day to help our nation's veterans. So thank you and hats off to you. One of the things I would just always stress to any VSO is just to make sure that strategic messaging is buttoned up and is very, very easy for people to understand, especially people from a corporate perspective. And that's the reason why this space I love so much is because I kind of have both feet in the water a little bit. I understand people who do not understand the military because I used to be one of those people. I did not know that the reserves were for, people who could, had never served before. I always thought they were people that had to have had prior service before, and then you became a reservist. So it's a lot of misnomers. I remember being here at our last one. Let me say too, it feels so good to be back in person. Everyone on the panel has said that, but I remember being here maybe at the last event, and someone on stage mentioned the fact that, it's a misnomer that everyone thinks, if you serve, you have PTSD. You have PTSD. And the guy mentioned that he had served maybe 3 or 4 combat tours, and the thing that rattles him the most is having a car accident, which his younger sister passed away in when he was maybe 6 years old. So those things do exist, those preconceived notions, but having a very buttoned up strategic message for corporate leaders, directors, and managers, it definitely helps to get them to understand your why. Why are we going to give to this VSO? What are we going to return? What are we going to get in return for this VSO? Because some people want to give just to give. Some people want some ROI once they give to an organization. So having those strategic messages in place, we can easily deliver that message. And then in turn, that individual can go back to their board of directors or their program managers or so, however they're built, and easily provide that. I think it just really helps your mission, and it'll help you, strategically going forward if that message is locked up tight.
Thanks, Omari. Pat?
So the VSOs with us in Maine, I'm going to go back and talk a little bit of stats and data for you. The state of Maine is just over 1 million people. So if we put up a border around 4 blocks here, we'd staff and house the entire state probably. But with that said, 10% of our population is veteran. And prior to working for General Dynamics Bath Iron Works, I did a short stint under the JVSG grant with Department of Labor, which taught me a lot about the way that we were receiving transitions, on top of the fact that we were dwindling very fast in the state of Maine because of the Vietnam vet to post 9/11 gap. So in the state of Maine, being that we're so small, we have some third-party VSOs that, for example, I'll use Boots to Roots as one of the VSOs that we use. And our director of human resources, who has zero affiliation with the military whatsoever, sits on that board, not me. And the reason she sits on that board is because I already speak acronym, and just like the majority of you in here do. So by having her engage with that VSO, who also sources for companies in the state of Maine, she gets a better understanding of what's coming out. And it's not the same from what it was 30 years ago. So she gets a better understanding. She learns more about the military. It makes our conversations a lot easier about when the high-level roles are coming up, especially in SkillBridge. We can eliminate a lot of that fluff that's in the job recs, right? Most hiring managers recruit in their image. I advocate, I don't recruit. Veterans don't need recruiters, they need advocates, because the skill set they already possess makes them more marketable. I'm a why not guy, not a why guy. So when I get to these VSOs and they pass these resumes off to me, I'll show up in your office and put it on your desk. I'm not going to send it through an email. I'm not going to use an ATS because they've already been vetted. Not even by me, but by people in the community. And Boots to Roots is boarded by real estate agents. I actually connect some of our veterans that are coming in with a service dog provider that is on the board for Boots to Roots. It's a selling point, and I don't have to do anything for it. I just connect them. But that's about all I got right now.
Blake, you want to add?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. I think, number one, like if you want some of the world's greatest talent, they're there. I remember when I left, I went through a junior officer recruiter company, and I was like the worst candidate that you could ask for, because they were like, it was like, you need to wear these shoes, you need to speak this language, you need to do this. And I was like, well, this is in the Marine Corps. Like, you're hiring people that have, individual talent and intellect and et cetera. So, to Patrick's point of like being an advocate, I understand that there's like an AI and there's a data part to it and there's a resume part to it, but there's also just a simple human part to it. And if we can sort of break that down and understand that businesses are made of people, we should probably just recruit good humans. And that works. I think, speaking specifically from sort of what we do on how we work with corporate partners, I like to say one of the best things we do as a nonprofit is not run it like a nonprofit. We ask our partners, what does success look like for you? So I see some of our USAA, friends in the audience, and they're celebrating their 100th year anniversary, and they said, we want to celebrate our service to startup. They were the original OG military startup, and now they're 100 years into it. And so we said, well, how do you want to do that? And like, we want to see more startups. So in partnership with them, we launched a 7-city pitch competition. They're putting up $300,000 in non-dilutive cash to companies across the country, with the goal of highlighting great talent and great companies. And my hope is USA comes in and swoops in and buys a bunch of them. I think there's also a misnomer about I think it exists, but I think there are more in the VSO space that are trying to work together than work against each other. I'm looking at my friends from Operation Stand Down here in Tennessee. I had my whole staff in town 2 weeks ago in Nashville. Had this incredible evening planned for them, rooftop, singers, songwriters, country music. You guys come, we'll set it up. And then the weather comes in, we can't do it. And within 20 minutes, the Operation Stand Down said, anything you need to be able to do it, we got it. And our team had no idea. They walked in like red carpet was rolled out. And so I think if that is like a something you're seeing, I think I would ask you like confront that, because we live in a world where we have enough working against it. We don't need to add to that, and we can support each other. So like very specifically on the corporate side, like I think it's a human thing, and it's actually I think there's some onus on the corporate partner to step into that and understand that their process is going to make that a challenge, and just acknowledge that. And then on our side, it's just asking what does success look like, and how can we help you get there.
I couldn't agree more. The one point that Blake really hits on is working together, right? Find those other VSOs in this space that complement your mission. My partners are here in the room that helped me build ACP, because we complemented each other and we introduced each other and we worked together and we all grew accordingly. And that's so important, right? If we were going to make this impact on our constituents, our veterans, our spouses who are coming out, it's so important for us to work together and not look at each other as competition. Thor, did you want to add?
Yeah. Again, like there's the formal and the informal. As far as when you talk about organizations like the American Legion, and we're an extremely informal organization. We tend to take one veteran, go and try to help them understand, like, hey, this is the opportunity set you're looking at. This is the skill set that you need. We'll get you ready. We'll help you work on your resume. We'll help you work on your pitch. Like, that's all good. But a lot of times, people need programs. They need help. And as you're saying, there's a lot of other programs out there. We referred people to ACP, 4-Block, which was started by Mike Abrams. Literally was started in our American Legion post. So that was his office for about 2 years. He would sit there, take phone calls. There's a tremendous number of organizations out there that you can plug into. And so, the VSOs, again, we work together a lot more than we butt heads. So, if there's a right fit or a better fit, we will refer you there, or you should refer people there.
Thanks. Yeah. And look, when it comes down to VSOs, right? I spent 30 years as a sales trader. So every time I picked up the phone and I called a brokerage house, they knew I was looking for an order. So the VSO, as soon as you call a corporation or somebody, a funder, it might be somebody who writes grants, so on and so forth. They know what you're looking for. They know exactly what you need, right? It's so important for us to find out what they need, right? And I'm going to go right back to Blake with that, right? Because, how do you build those partnerships that you just talked about? How does the average, look, you talked about D&I, right? Veterans fall into the D&I space. I get it. We're veterans and they want to compartmentalize us. But we're African-American, we're Latino, we're LGBTQ, we're women, right? And so we fit the entire organization. So what I've seen is that some companies can get caught up on the whole D&I space and not focus on the actual talent. But how do we build relationships? And I'll go right back to you, Blake.
Yeah, I mean, simple rules like don't be a jerk is a good place to start. It's like low bar, but you'd be surprised. We operate. So we have 5 values at Bunker Labs. The first is we love building this community. We work smart. We get it done. We're fearlessly authentic, and we're magnanimous. I had to look the word up, magnanimous. But the idea that you play the long game, right? Like if you put the mission of the person you're trying to serve first, everything else is going to work itself out. And it won't sometimes in the short term. But if you understand that that's the goal, that's what you're trying to do, whether you're trying to bring somebody on board, whether you're trying to put together, this partnership that we have with this service to start up 100-year anniversary, and just understand like, why are we doing this? And being super transparent. I think, it's easy to like put a gloss on and feel like everything's fine. But I think people just really respect when you're like, yeah, you know what, this is actually going to be really hard, or we screwed this up. But we want the opportunity to make it better. And when you lead with trust and when you lead with that, then you have that grace. And if you don't, it's like as soon as you cut it off, it's over. And I think of some of our best partnerships, the first meeting, we're like, man, that guy was a jerk. And we just played the long game. And some of our biggest, partners, have come from that individually, not our corporate ones. But I think that's a good place to start. And then, I think just asking people, what do you need? How can I help? I mean, we call it give get, like super simple. What can I give you that's going to help you get to the next level? What can help me get to the next level?
Omari?
Yeah, I would say relationship building is so key, and it may sound a little cliche, but I always tell folks or organizations or companies, I mean, go to the rooms where your passions lie, and I've done that internally at Mantech as well. I remember first coming into this role, one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to show people the true diversity of our organization. So one of the first things I did was start a Women's History Month celebration. And people looked at me like, what? It was an unlikely person that would want this to happen. But I've always been that type to where I go into the rooms where, I really want to add value. And I think it's, VSOs, the same premise can kind of help. Just go to those communities, go to those companies that share those values with you and the things that are important to you the most. And another thing with building relationships is being authentic. I'm a type of person that I've kept very long-term relationships throughout my life. And it's just not to necessarily network. It's because I truly want to invest in that person or that organization and kind of give back and create a relationship. So again, all of it sounds very cliche, but I think if we put those types of, if we put that type of emotion and that type of focus, into relationship building, all they do is flourish. And we talk to, or I talk to so many veterans, throughout the year in regards to things you can do to, network, build relationships during your transitional period. And I always tell them, I mean, when your transition period starts, I mean, almost the moment that you join the service, in my opinion, when I transition into the military, almost, once or sometimes twice a month, I'm already, that transitional period in my mind. I mean, it's not the easiest thing to do, but when you build those relationships, internally, they help. You'll find those folks who are advocates to say, hey, Omari, you're doing this wrong. Or Omari, you have your, like on my first day, they're like, Omari, you have your medals, everything on the complete wrong side. You gotta get out of this room, So yeah, building relationships, I think is all about, just that passion and really going into it with an authentic, mindset of, hey, we really want to engage. This is an organization that we want to partner with as a VSO, and here's why we want to partner, with you, and continue to kind of just chip away, and nail that down. One really quick example, it's a veteran in Roanoke, Virginia, that has been at actually at an American Legion post that has been pounding it away, at Mantech for actually years, trying to find the right person, just to donate swag or donate, to their to a marathon that they do down there. And I mean, speaking to this guy, I mean, I knew in maybe 3 or 4 minutes, it's I'm gonna move heaven and earth for you, because he was chipping away, building different relationships throughout the organization. He didn't get to the right person, but it's everyone that I talked to, that he had talked to, they knew the type of music that he liked. They knew his extracurricular activities. I mean, this guy was building relationships. I built a relationship with this gentleman, so being very authentic, even if you don't get, what it is you're going after, just being authentic, and people will remember that. And I think, fruit grows from that.
Yeah, just to expand a little bit more on what you're talking about when you're saying being authentic. For us, and this is another example, when it comes to 501Cs or VSOs or anything like that, understanding what those programs offer or what they have access to becomes an asset for you. For example, Maine, and I deal with SkillBridge. I bring transitioning service members to the state, and the majority of them have no ties. I was one of those guys. I'm from Houston, but I live in Maine now, and it's okay. I have a snowblower. It's great. But anyway, I'm a Marriott guy, and I've been on the road about 100 days in the last year, and I don't have 100,000 points yet. But Hilton has a program for transitioning service members, veterans that have been out for 60 years, it doesn't matter. But if you're extending an offer, bringing them in for training, any sort of onboarding for your company, they will upload 100,000 points into a veteran's account, and it will be done in less than 12 hours. That program in and of itself has brought 4 people to my state and my company, just because they didn't have somewhere to stay. So the job opportunity was there. They knew no one. We brought them up, gave them the Hilton Honors points, and within 48 hours, we connect them with Boots to Roots. Boots to Roots then goes back to JVSG. I could tell you how far my golden thread goes, but understanding what's out there is extremely important. But yeah, that's all I got.
Thanks, Pat. Thor, did you want to add?
Yeah, we're kind of harping on a theme a little bit, but relationships are absolutely key. And this kind of brings me back to the other hat I've worn in the employee resource groups within large institutions. Sometimes people need a little cajoling. And when we started our veteran associate program, which is for transitioning vets, there were some businesses that were not necessarily on board. And there was a perception, someone alluded to it earlier, vets are, we're a box of broken toys. And, we had to disabuse them of that notion very quickly. And really, we said, look, if you think, you want to do something to help out a broken toy or, a down on his luck vet, like this is not what we're talking about. These guys are good hires. These make sense. Like, you might have a guy coming out of Wharton, he'll be up here, a veteran might be not quite up to speed, but he'll be like 80%, 85%, something like that. But the thing is, where the payoff is 5 years from now, that vet's going to be light years ahead of the Wharton guy. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. And success begets success. And once you convince people, we had, investment banking was a very hard business to break into with that program. And finally, they just saw the people that we were bringing in, the quality of people, and how they were impacting their businesses. And they said, okay, well, we want to do this. Okay, well, how many want to do? We want to do 6. We'll give you 2. And so it became like more of the demand far outstripped what you can provide. And that was all about building those relationships and showing people what vets can do just when they're given an opportunity. And that's where, again, I like the term advocacy. You need to be an advocate within the larger institution, because sometimes people have their preconceived notions. I had a friend of mine who was sitting on an equity derivatives desk, and he's like, oh yeah, I got out of the Marine Corps in 2008, and he's like, oh yeah, and then you went to college, right? He's like, no, I was a helicopter pilot in the Marine Corps. I had my degree, but I had I was in for 9 years, and I did all this training and stuff, and he was flabbergasted. He thought the only reason you would join the Marine Corps is if you were one step ahead of Johnny Law and you had no other options. And I couldn't believe it, but this kind of perception is still out there. And so you need those internal advocates to kind of break down those barriers.
Thanks, Thor. And that leads me to my next question. And I look at my own example. I don't have a bachelor's degree, but I went on to build one of the largest independent floor operations at the New York Stock Exchange. I was on numerous boards. I ran for Congress. But if I sent my resume into Indeed, probably a lot of the companies sitting in this room is not going to be calling me. How do VSOs that understand what the veteran brings to the table, really understands, how do they work best with companies to try to bring that across to them? And not just the veteran talent guy who really understands it, but how do they get more in depth into a company and endear themselves so that they can impact those veterans? And I'll start with you, Pat.
So this is one of the comments that I made in the email last week, talking about overlap and getting the top-down knowledge of what's coming out of service. Like I said, I speak acronym, so do most of the VSOs. That's the way the conversation goes if I walk in the room. Just because I've hit their comfort button, we're talking old school, we're back in uniform, everything's fine. But when my director of HR goes to these board meetings, She removes herself from the shipyard. She gets away from what she's used to, and they have off-site meetings with everyone across the board where they discuss all of the candidates that are inbound. But it's not on a resume. It's on, they're married, they have 2 kids, this is what they've done in whatever branch that you want to bring up. But it's more of a conversation about them as a person as opposed to, this is the skill set. I've already defined it enough that our VPs understand what the veteran community is exiting with. I mean, Lean Six Sigma black belts they're everywhere in the military right now. So trying to shift the focus, I don't know if I want to call it control, but when you're in your office, in your company, like at your location, the walls are up. It's the only way I can really describe it. So trying to remove that and turn it into a conversation as opposed to just a regular referral.
Thanks, Pat. And Omari, obviously, Mantex probably has an extremely large veteran population in their employment. How do you guys look?
Yeah, I would say that just inviting more advocates in the room, I think something that we do very well at Mantech is that, if we have a, veterans resource group, trying to make sure that, other people are represented in that room so they can kind of understand those acronyms, understand the talk, and they feel comfortable in those environments. You have people, and I'll pull people in just quickly and say, hey, come to this meeting, It's like, well, don't you have to be a veteran to, attend? And it's like, no, you don't. You're going to learn a lot and vice versa. So I think from a VSO perspective, if VSOs can have that same mentality of, hey, we may want to bring someone who's, not very familiar with the military culture or the veteran community into our organization to kind of be that advocate. I mean, it'll unlift the veil over their heads, when they really get in there to see the talented people that we have in the veteran community. To your point, I mean, it's just such a diverse group of individuals, one of the most diverse, demographics ever. So I think when we bring more people into our space that don't have any idea, I think it only makes us stronger.
Thanks, Omari. Blake, do you want to add?
Yeah, 2 things real quick. I think one is understanding the power dynamic, and I think that's real. So coming from the corporate side, when you're transitioning as a veteran, you don't understand you may not understand the value and the worth that you bring to that organization. And I think I heard it best. There's a Bunker Labs company. She's one of our board members, Kim Young, Rumi Spice, one of the largest private employers in Afghanistan. And she was pitching her company over and over again, and just like it just wasn't happening, and realized that she was asking for, somebody was talking about asking for permission, and she shifted it and said, I have one of the greatest opportunities for you, and I will give you the opportunity to invest in my company. And she's now gone and grown this company, but it was that shift. So one, like as a veteran, understanding what you bring to the table. And then on the corporate side, understanding like that there is that power dynamic that exists, and to do kind of the best you can to break that down. The other thing is just like being aware of how you're attracting people into your company. So one of the most fun things we've ever done was with MetLife. So we're not an employment organization. We're about entrepreneurship. MetLife said, we want to try to figure out how we recruit more veterans. So we want to work with Bunker. And we're like, all right, I'm missing something. And they're like, well, we like kind of your approach. And we're like, what do you want to do? And so we started this web series. It was called the Bunker Breakdown. And it was a terribly shot web series, but they loved it. And it was a way for us to just go and tell the stories of all these incredible leaders. And MetLife put themselves out there as a company that was willing to do like interesting digital stuff, innovative stuff in the social space. And now we've got, they support the Transition podcast. And it's all about telling the stories of these business leaders and these American leaders. And MetLife knew, they're like, we just want people to know that we are investing in this community. And if people hear that and they know that and they associate that with MetLife, then we're going to be able to hopefully recruit great folks because we're going about this as a different approach.
Cool. So we're getting the red flag. And so I just want to leave it with this, and I'll start with you, Pat. You know, if you're talking to a VSO out there right now, how can a VSO help you?
Me personally, like our company
at
right
your
now.
company.
So internally with the state, we're just trying to make more connections to ESGR right now. That's been a big push for us because I saw you. I know I didn't get my Freedom Award this year. But anyway, that's beside the point. But I would say just being upfront and openly discussing what the need is with your company. Before I started with my company, we didn't have a veteran recruiter, period. So I've been full sprint for the last 10 months trying to generate and develop and organize the military recruiting program. And it started with me going to the VSOs within the state and saying, look, I'm from Houston. I just got out of the Army. This is new to me. I don't know the right things to say, but I really want veterans to come here. And it started great, and now I annoy them to no end, and it's been phenomenal.
Thanks, Pat. Omar?
Yeah, and I'll quickly just say, just being yourselves and being steadfast and unmovable. You know, if you get a no on one shot, just like any veteran, you just keep going with that organizations. Because to your point, within large corporations and even small ones, you have people who are veterans and become those advocates, but you have to be able to touch that right person, and they'll move mountains for that VSO, which helps out the veterans, which helps out your mission. And again, I would just like to, say in closing, thank you all so much for everything you're doing for veterans, even, companies that are here that are competitors of Mantech, but, thank you for continuously, we're all helping each other by, raising our game up a little bit. We're helping that veteran community. And I like to say, I've never been on a panel with somebody with the name of Thor, and I am going to text my mother and tell her she could have did a better job with my name. So, I think that's cool.
That's great. Blake?
I mean, so first things first, I want to know where you got those Bob Ross socks.
My sock game is
so yeah, we didn't coordinate our fashion like the previous one, but we did coordinate socks. Mine are really cool. But look, I mean, I think, I come at this from a very specific perspective, and that is, I think, entrepreneurs are one of I think entrepreneurship is the greatest leveling playing field we have in this country. I think we need more capitalists that are servant leaders. And I think that corporations have an opportunity to bring in great leaders into their companies. Like, if you want to excel, then you want great people who are going to look out for other people. So those are military spouses. Those are veterans. So figure it out, learn how to be human. And if you want to launch and grow a great business, we want to be a small part of that journey.
Thanks, Blake. Thor.
Just going with my heritage. The thing I would say is, utilize VSOs and the veterans that work in your company to reach back into the military to the people they know that are getting out and help them to plan their transition. I've gotten calls from people that, hey, I'm getting out. I'm thinking about getting out. Can you, I'm interested in finance, or I'm from New York. Can you tell me what the landscape's like? And I can have a very generalized conversation about kind of what the opportunity set is. And that's great, because then they go, that's not interesting. Or this is, I can help them neck down into where they really want to focus. And the earlier you do that, the more successful the outcome. I've also fielded the call. I got out 6 months ago. I'm in Vermont. I'm living on my mom's couch, and I volunteer down at the library, but I'm really interested in investment banking. I never tell anybody you can't do that, but I just like, bro, you got a lot of work to do. But there's a pathway to get there. And so to help them build that pathway. And so the earlier you can get engaged, the better it is, both from the veterans' perspective, in that they step out of uniform and into a job, and then also in that, from the company perspective, you're getting somebody that's going to be more quickly or immediately accretive to your bottom line.
Thanks, Thor. So look, since leaving Wall Street, this has been 5 of the most rewarding years of my life working in this space. If I can leave you with anything, I ask you to please, if somebody reaches out to you makes a phone call to you, asks you to send their resume, make an introduction to somebody, do it. Because I promise you, in this space, it's going to come back tenfold. Thank you so much to the Vets Index team. Thank you for having us. It's been a pleasure.